So, for those of you who know, do you know the All Blacks?
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, who's been on my sessions before? Hands up. Okay, a good number of you. Okay, hands up. So you know what this is about. Cool. I'm gonna get you guys to stand up just to get you guys pumped for this session. So we're gonna do a breathing exercise inspired by the New Zealand haka. So what you're gonna do? I would definitely free up both hands. Okay. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna start with your arms up like this. You're gonna do a big breath in through your nose that goes into your belly. That's where the power is. Okay. And when you breathe in, your arms go up like this. You go. And then. Okay, very good. Now, listen, we're going to do that 3 times. And after we do that, we're going to clap 3 times. So clap 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Almost there. 3, 2, 1. Very good. And then put your arms in front of you like this. And go, hoo-way! Hoo-way! For the first time. Okay, we're going to put it together. So 3 breaths, clap 3 times, and then hoo-way. You guys ready? All right, arms up. At 3, 2, 1. Clap. Hooray! Fantastic. I gotta say, let's go. Was the best I have ever seen that happen. That was so good. Oh, that makes me so happy. Okay.
Imagine the next time.
Right. All right. Cool. Hey, so what I'll do is actually introduce the panels first. No, I should tell you what the panel is about. Firstly, the panel is agree to disagree, the greatest challenges in leadership right now. And what we've done is we've brought together 4 fantastic leaders in their categories that would never normally sit on a panel talking about this kind of thing. But that's exactly why we're doing this. Because we're in an age now where tech is, I'm not going to say too much because some of this stuff is going to pop up on the slides, but there's a lot of divide at the moment, and what we need now more is empathy. And I don't mean being nice. I mean having perspective of what other people are thinking who are nothing like you, right? And so it's super important for us to be able to have these kind of discussions in order to move things in a more progressive way, and also because social media is now silence. Yes?
Can you use the microphone?
Yes, I can. All right. Thank you for that. Very good. You can hear me? Very good. Cool. No, I don't hear that. Yes, I repeat from the back. We need more empathy in the world, not the empathy that just means being nice to one another, because you could be empathetic without being kind, you can be kind without being empathetic. What we're talking about here is not just putting yourself in the shoes of others, but actually believing them as they say it, all right, and understanding what other people are going through. And often we are in such silos now, especially in the digital realm. So this is why we invited 4 of the most fantastic experts who are on the ground, who know their shit, who will be coming up to the stage. And what's going to happen is that they've never seen any of these statements before. Okay, so we're going to put some controversial statements up there. All right, they're going to have to agree or disagree and then defend. Okay, and you guys are involved too. Actually, you go first. So I'm going to put the statements up. I'm going to get you guys to vote. Thumbs up for agree, thumbs down for disagree. Okay, then they do their thing, and then we come back to you to see what you think, like if anything's changed. And then you can also chime in a little bit. And when you chime in, you get the microphone of power. So when that happens, we'll pass that around. We'll just need you to say your name so we know who you are, and then say your piece. Okay? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel lists, and then we're going to do this exercise called relationship design and get straight into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't need my phone. We'll start first with, in my view, an absolute anomaly of a human being, and I mean that in the best way possible, because when we're talking about the corporate sector, like corporate America, it's all about profit and money, and then on the other end of the stick is like people and caring and kindness. This guy is like the whole stick, right? He understands the structure piece, but he also understands the people piece. And it is so odd to see that. And that's why I had to invite him to this panel. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Marcin, who has headed some of the biggest corporations here in Poland. Small companies you might have heard of, like Allegro and Impost, and ex-McKinsey as well. So an absolute powerhouse of a human being. He's also very nice. Very good. The second one is another powerhouse in her sector. So she has been voted as, or recognized as one of the most influential women in biotech in Poland, and that's the small one. Stanford has recognized her as in the top 2% of most cited scientists, chemical scientists in the world. Absolutely, and she is as kind as she is curious. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Emily. And thirdly, the head of what's been voted or recognized by the Financial Times and Statista as the leading startup hub in the region, not in Poland, the region. And he's also on the board of Venture Cafe, which is this wonderful event that you see here. And in my personal experience working with Venture Cafe in all these other countries, it is the best community building foundation I've ever seen. And for context, I'm the director of an economic program in ASEAN in Japan. I do this with Google, I do this with the New Zealand government and the UK. So this is not coming out of thin air. I mean that when I say it. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Jerzy. And last but certainly not least, she has led in just the most insane humanitarian crisis initiatives that are happening in the world, from the Beirut blast to the Ukrainian crisis, and I can't even summarize the story, the crisis that you had to go through, the war, yes, the war, but all these other crises that you have to deal with where there's a blast, people are without homes, and then you have an energy crisis, a currency devaluation, all these, and COVID, all happening at the same time. It is insane what is actually happening out there on the field that we don't often see. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Selena. I was going to say, this is my first time meeting Selena, but she came so highly recommended by experts in the field that I respect. And they said, you have to get her on this panel. So there we go.
No pressure.
No pressure, but it is a stacked panel. You're not going to find this group of people together on a stage like this. So without paying for it. Thank you very much, Venture Cafe CIC, for hosting us. Okay, so just really quickly, Marcin, I need to sit here just for this bit, so people can see. We have to do this thing called relationship design because you don't just put people in a room and expect them to disagree and hope that everything's going to be okay. It doesn't work like that on the internet. It could happen, and it does. It can happen in person, but you have to do this activity called relationship design, which really should be taught in schools, because when you have a relationship with somebody, you have to, of course, design it for success at the start. So, what does that mean for us? Firstly, if it's not honest, it's not useful. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
We're not here for talking heads?
Yes.
Very good, cool. So they've already agreed to this. Number two, you gotta give the benefit of the doubt. So if someone says something that you totally disagree with, do you go, oh, you're a dick? No, you get curious, right? You go, well, what makes you say that? So we're gonna channel curiosity. Would we agree?
Yes.
Yes. Very good. All right, so group relationship, I love this. Third is to be concise, because being clear is kind. A lot of people here are very kind people, and sometimes when you're kind, you want to say nice things, but it's not really what you want to say, and you start muddling it up. This room is okay. Speak your mind, to be honest, but you can be kind in the way that you say it. But firstly, be clear it is about what you want to say. So when you get given the mic later, both sides, be concise and don't ramble for 10 minutes because we have quite a bit of statements to get through. Cool?
Yes.
Fantastic, very good. And last one, this is really important. You got to keep your professional filter. So the first time I did this with government delegations, we almost caused a diplomatic disaster because someone took the be honest as having no filter and just went to town. So be professional in this context. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Cool. Sorry, we're over there. Thank you very much. Cool. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started with our first statement. Anybody happy to volunteer for me later? Just to help pass the mic around, because the room is a big. Thank you very much. You had your hand up first. Thank you for helping. Ladies and gentlemen, can you give a big thank you to Shahar? Thank you. Yeah. No, that's recording transcriptions, because we will put out the insights of this panel out on social media later, so you can go through and take a look. Sound good?
Yes.
I think about you. Yeah, very good. All right, so we went through the panelist thing already. Let's do it. So, actually, I just realized that, it's not sharing over there. Are you cool to just, sorry. I need to make it useful for them. Bear with me for a quick second. Because it was showing a second ago. Give me a quick second. Okay. You guys see that? And okay, panelists are able to kind of see this, but you may have to the right, the bar, and there you go. Yeah, that's as far as that goes. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, I will say it out loud, and then you may have to turn your head. I'm sorry. Okay, first statement is: your judgment was formed in a world that no longer exists. You can no longer trust it. I'll give you 10 seconds to settle in. Your judgment was formed in a world that no longer exists. You can no longer trust it. Audience first. Agree, disagree. 3, 2, 1. Hands up. No, depends. You gotta put your hand up as a thumb up or thumb down. There's no it depends. What do you guys think? About 50-50? Yeah. 50-50. Okay, very good. Hands down. Panelists, you guys ready to vote? Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1, vote. Oh. Okay. Yeşil will go last. Very good. Machi, sorry, let me pass you a microphone.
Working?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want me to elaborate, or what
Yes.
should I do?
Elaborate,
Okay. I just think it's it's a constantly changing in a way, but I wouldn't say that I cannot stop trusting it. I think I trust it a lot, but I need to kind of adjust. But I wouldn't say that it was formed one day. The word has changed, and now I cannot trust it because I think it's too, extreme in a way. Okay. Good.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah, I fully agree. The world's changing. I fully agree with your statement. The world is changing. We've grown up with some principle, and this is never that is one day that all the principles are out and we go to the next principle. It's a process.
Yes.
It's a process.
Okay. All right. Selena first.
Yes, just to follow up on what you said, I think the world is changing, and we always think, everyone has always thought like, oh my God, my world is changing so fast, but it has always been changing, and every generation can say something about that. But I think the values and the humanity of our globe is somewhat the same, right? We are still humans, we are just dealing with different problems. And my judgment was formed by people who are still here, and it still exists by the society, my family, my friends. So it still exists. It's just being maybe altered by what I experience and what I go through life. But yeah, I believe it's a core of my humanity. So yeah, I still trust it.
Here we go.
No. Let's agree to disagree. Things never really change, but they change all the time. Certain values that we have are embedded in humanity and in our human rights, and the families we were born into, the society we were born into, the country we were living in. So certain things certainly don't change. But there's a key word in this statement, which is judgment. And judgment creates prejudice. And imagine a situation where somebody was raised in a bad way. For example, in a world which wasn't perfect and caused you to feel that you are, not in the right place. And when the world changes, and for example, you mentioned, Grzegorz, empathy. Empathy comes around, and you suddenly realize your judgments, your original values, which were slanted, weren't correct, can change. So I believe we're building a world, and crisis is a moment where the world is changing, where we can change certain values of people which weren't right to actually being right.
I just feel that it's not really that the judgment was formed. I believe it's more about us forming our judgment every single day. So I would argue it's not like our judgment was formed 20 years ago. At least I like to believe that I'm changing, every day, and I add to my judgment, right? So I need to adapt my judgment. And I believe my judgment is very much different than it was 20 years ago. It is, and I think totally differently about the word. But I think I hope it's still applicable in a way.
Because we are also changing, not only the world, also we are changing as a person. So I think this is a parallel, influencing issues which are influencing each other's kind of the bilateral development.
The thing is, the statement is kind of tricky, right? And each of us understands it differently because I took it very personally, and I thought I was thinking about myself, and I think you were talking maybe about like society. And what I'm looking at here is that I can no longer trust it, and I understand this question as this kind of sneaky way of telling us, oh, the world is changing so much, we can't believe anything, and we cannot even trust ourselves. And this is why I said I don't agree with it, because even though the world is changing, I still believe that my judgment and the values I believe in through them I am able to trust myself, even if I'm changing the judgment because I'm learning, everyone is learning all the time, to trust myself to judge the reality that I see. That's how I understood it.
Especially that the judgment is not only intellectual, is it? I mean, quite often we just feel what is good for us, and we feel what we believe in, and we feel. So kind of staying close to it is really important, this is my point. Rather than just thinking and just, judgment is not only intellectual.
Just follow you, judgments, the sounds of the words mean that we are analyzing something. We are just making the decision, this is good or not, we could trust it or not. And I agree with you that there's a lot of emotion and feeling. So I would change a little bit the intention, is, how we feel the world is changing and how we could see ourselves also changing. Still keeping the principle, that is a value of us, but we use emotion to, I don't want to use this word, but I use it to judge or to evaluate.
Last piece.
Sure. What I learned, and I also, just like all of you, and I'm trying to play a bit of a mind trick game here, I also have my values, and I believe they're correct, because this is what humanity is about, believing something that we believe, and we trust ourselves. That word is also used here, that we trust that we know what we think. But if you follow Plato and Socrates, the fathers of democracy, you are told to ask and question everything, including your values, your projections, and the way you receive the world. And this is a tool to basically realize that even though you don't change, you actually change all the time. And you make up pieces of society. And, just to close this off, I do believe that things have changed very rapidly recently, and they have been changing very rapidly, but certain fundamentals of humanity stay the same. We communicate faster because we have technology. We learn faster because we have technology. But those things we still do, and we did in the past. We learned, we communicated, so technology has made things faster, but, it still requires us to adapt.
I'll get you guys to vote one more time, just to see if anything has changed. You guys ready? Agree, disagree. 3, 2, 1. Okay, keep your hand up if you have changed your vote. You can't do that. Well, apparently she can. I'm quite curious, Shahar, you have the microphone of power. I think I'll give you both, actually. Yeah, because I want to record this one. Would you like to share why you've changed your mind? So your name and then...
Of course. My name is Volkan. Actually, I was at neutral. First, I tried to assess and I really tried to understand because I felt it's a bit tricky also. I was thinking is it 20 years ago like that, or right now like what is it about? And then after I see it, yeah, I was searching that because I agree with the other two that panelists. It's changing, but also it says trust. So that's the key point for me. So I should trust something. I understand world does not exist, but I have to trust something. So I want to believe that I'm trying the right thing.
No, but that was actually very powerful because in a world now where it's so hard to trust whatever that you're seeing online and in the media, knowing there's so much propaganda, and even from companies, it's what is there left to trust at the end of the day? And I think that you guys actually I think their answers actually converged. Wouldn't you agree? I definitely did. Anyway, cool. All right, so we're gonna move on. We got lots of really great.
What about you, Grzegorz?
Shouldn't have done that. I disagree. I think you have to trust your judgment, even if the world, and actually, especially because the world has completely changed. There has to be certain certainty, or else you can't move. Right at the end of the day. So at the end, those are my views. But I don't want to influence too much. Not that I will influence the four of you because you're all very, very opinionated in your experience. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Here we go. So. Oh, I'm so sorry. So, in a real crisis, consensus is a luxury you cannot afford. We must all agree that someone has to decide alone. So, in a real crisis, consensus is a luxury you cannot afford. We have to agree that someone has to decide alone. First, you guys. 3, 2, 1. Agree or disagree? Put your hand up for something. Oh, some really big opinions there. You see that guy in the middle? There we go. But it's pretty 50-50. Would you agree? Yeah. It seems so. Okay. Panelists, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, vote. Oh, yes, again. Hey, should we let Yesha go first this time?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, please.
Depending on the situation, this I would say this statement may be correct or may not. But in a political statement, because I think we're talking about societal, I would say, change. This reads.
So you say it in your world and from your experience. It doesn't have to be just for everybody.
Sure.
The root of it is from
True leadership is the ability to adapt to a changing world, to change the world around you. And in order to do this, you need to know how the world operates. And your own perspective is very misleading because we're just human beings. Unless we have advisory that allows us to get a better, broader perspective, which operates through consensus with other people, we cannot build a better world. And I think actually that this can lead to autocracy rather than democracy.
Some would say that good autocracy is not that bad comparing to democracy, right?
But in particularly recently, a lot of politicians in certain parts of the world will say that, yes.
Oh, but there are a lot of sorry, I will not. Please, panelists.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's it should be the common view. But for me the key word is in the real crisis, and because I'm also kind of the leader in the academic world, and we do have some real crisis of some in between people relation, or there are some bad behavior of some academic people towards students, this kind of, and that is not time to make a consensus, because the consensus make the crisis being deeper and deeper. So in that, this is what I get by this question. In that situation, the leader should be brave enough, experienced enough. Brave enough as a first to make a prompt decision in the real crisis situation. So that was my understanding of this statement.
So yeah, I will follow you again, and for me as well, the crisis, as I understand, is a crisis that I've been working with for the many years I've been active, and I've been teaching this as well based on my experience. I have been teaching a lot on crisis management and crisis preparedness in Poland for organizations and institutions who want to prepare, because currently a lot of talk in the public debate is about how to prepare for different scenarios. And one of the biggest issues that always comes up is the division of roles and responsibilities in the crisis and how to decide exactly. And I often hear the need for consensus, discussion, and so on, but really the people who want to do that, then they want to take the responsibility for the decisions that are being made. And in practice, in crisis, as Professor said, there is no time, there are no resources, and most importantly, lives and health of people are at stake. So from my practical experience, there is no other way than to have any kind of authoritative decision-making structure, and one person needs to sign for the decision that is being taken and take the responsibility for whatever happens. But what is crucial from my experience is how to prepare your organization or your institution or even family that you work with to make these decisions, and how can you ensure that the decision you are making as a leader are well informed and based on not only your assumptions and your beliefs, because this is dangerous, but how can you ensure that you get the advisory you mentioned, but also the support of your teams or of your family members in a swift way. So it's all about preparedness and practicing different scenarios and discussing different scenarios and thinking constantly about what would I do if the times come for me to take the decision. Yeah.
There's a whole level of preparedness that is coming out from that particular answer, to be the one that decides. Alone, but also not alone. That just seems to be the observation. Sorry, yes.
Because before I get the microphone, crisis is the situation when our own personal psychology is in majority of the people blocked. The people don't want what to do. They don't, they are lost. So the leadership, it's also the social problem. We did have some accident in the chemical laboratory, some explosion, some people, not very much, we find it later on, but it was a fire and crisis in the technology building. So, and the people were frozen, they start to run away. So it must be someone, or maybe two people who loudly say, let's go there, stay here, do this. Could you call to the ambulance? Could you call to the police? That I understand that in a crisis we behave as a population, and the sociologists are saying this. The matter of the leadership is to make some preparation, some exercise to mimic the crisis potential situation and try to see how we could behave it. But it must be I'm very convinced it must be the one person or two, three, but I mean some single decision of the leader to make that in a crisis situation.
I may add now, my take. Very often, crises are caused by non-consensual decisions.
Maybe we should discuss what you mean by crisis, because we might have a completely different.
And that was my, I would say, second question. There's another key, or rather statement. There's a number of words in this statement which are, in my opinion, maybe misleading. One is a real crisis. What is a real crisis? What is a luxury also in terms of this statement? And that someone has to decide alone. I've, in my previous statement, mentioned that advisory is needed. And again, I'm going to go back to many of the decisions that we recently have been seeing on the political global sphere. Many of these decisions are made through single, non-advised, basically decision-making, which are causing crises. And unfortunately, unless you have some sort of a consensus, it's a rabbit hole that you basically dig deeper and deeper and deeper.
I like to think that the leadership is that you have some range of possible behaviors, and running some organizations. From my perspective, you of course like to build consensus, and you want people to partake in all decisions to be taken. But this is rather slow. So also there are times, we call it sometimes wartime, which is not good because it's not about war, but there are some difficult times in organizations that you need to stand up, as Professor said, and you need to say, now I need to take the decision, now I will make the decision because this is... And to some extent, as I said, and you laughed about it, it is a bit autocracy. I just believe it's wise autocracy. Of course, every autocratic ruler believes he's wise, and the one that you have in mind right now also believes he's the best in the world, right? But what I try to say is that I think that we need to use different ways of ruling, depends on the situation. And of course, you know, he puts all these words, you know, deliberately, so we have this kind of discussion. But in the end of the day, I believe that there are some crisis situations when you need to stand up and you need to say, this is what I believe in, we don't have time to discuss right now, or I need to gather your opinions, but I will just listen to your opinions and I will take the decision. Right?
I mean, Jerzy, you have some real life example that you're so diplomatically putting that we can think of. But I'm just curious. No, I mean, it's good, but I'm also, I'd love to hear, because you guys have so many real stories. So feel free to share some of them. Now, I'm actually just curious on your side, what you think again. So if you don't mind just voting one more time, just agree or disagree just to see where you are on this statement. 3, 2, 1, and hands up. Let's just take a look. Mostly agree. Now, there is a pretty significant change. Does anybody have a comment or say, yes, you do? Oh, I love it. Remember your name and yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sakina. First thing first, I like the way you were expressing your opinion, and I took a very good, I listened very well, I guess, because first thing first, what is a real crisis? So we don't know, right? Everyone has their own perception of real crisis. For example, when I read it, for me, it was like in corporate world, when there is something happens, how team reacts to that. But when there is something happens within a firefight team, everyone operates, they know what they do, and then they resolve the crisis. So this is the first thing. The second one is, I like the advisory that was mentioned about, that during the crisis, everyone is actually stressed out. And everyone putting the effort to resolve a thing can cause more crisis rather than to resolve it. So at first I thought everyone should put their ideas on the table and there could be a voting how to resolve the case. But once I listened to you, I realized that there should be someone who would have a better perspective, not better, but more neutral perspective to the case scenario. So there will not be involved any stress or any kinds of emotions that would influence the consequences of the decisions that was taken during the crisis. So I think, thank you very much for sharing your expertise and, ideas that changed my mind actually.
Right now, there's one more. Before we continue, just because I'm sensing, we'll do it in a second, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Antoni Przeczna. I'm actually seeing these two quotes going together in the contemporary world, especially in one example I'll show, because in the whole world, we never know what is the truth. And people won't be able to decide, or they will decide because either they have a wrong idea because someone brainwashed them because of the money profits. And at the moment we have a proposal, there's a regulation in the parliament called Lex Charlatan. Would you think that charlatans should be punished? So if some group of people, like complementary traditional medicine, will be called charlatans because because the mainstream medicine gets lots of money from corporations and they don't like the complementary medicine. So it's easy by the main field medicine to support parliamentary members or just to brainwash them. So they will decide that the best thing is just to punish charlatans. So they will take a regulation which will mean that anyone who practices complementary medicine will have to pay up to 1 million złotych, and if someone writes about it, but this is not main field medicine, also will be punished. So in this situation, in a democratic world, where is the democracy? Because like half of the parliamentary members decide that they will vote for corporations because they have benefits, and another half is not enough, doesn't have enough courage, and is not enough people to vote against them. So how do you resolve such situation? This is a real problem which is happening at the moment in Poland. Thank you.
Great question. That's a massive question. Would anybody like to tackle that?
Yeah, I can just say that I don't work as a psychotherapist, but I have psychotherapeutical experience and education. And quite often I see people who don't have it, don't have education, and are very good practitioners. And actually I use their knowledge and wisdom, and they help me a lot in my life. And I know plenty of people who have this, national certificates in psychotherapy, and they're pretty bad, and I would never send anyone to them. So I would say that, it's again tricky but I think it's a question you're asking, to what extent we should regulate our...
Now, what chance do we have to follow the truth and the real benefits which are there?
It's a nature of crisis where the consensus may not serve. Yeah, well, the consensus is supposed to be the mechanism that actually makes the change. But at the same time, it is also the reason why it is in place, and I would argue that it's because the consensus itself, which is the public, is not taking enough ownership of their own issues. And I don't know if there's a better answer. Yeah, go ahead, Jerzy.
If I may, we're not in a crisis, and advising on a situation like that would require me to study the topic more to actually provide you with an answer.
Such a diplomat.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true. It is true. Did you have something to say? No? Okay, very good. Okay, what we're gonna do, just because of the layout of the room and things going on, what we're gonna do is just, I'm gonna ask you guys to sit up, not yet. You're gonna roll your back up to sort of sit up nice and straight. We're gonna do a couple of breaths in through just chilling breaths, because actually we need to slow down the pace a little bit to connect. I'm just feeling it. So 4 seconds in through your nose, into your belly, and when you relax out on your breath at 6 seconds out, you're going to relax your face. You guys ready? And 3, 2, 1, breathing in. 2, 3, 4, let go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on the next breath, on the one out, you're going to relax your shoulders and your neck. Okay? And 3, 2, 1, breathing in. 2, 3, 4, and let go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who feels a little bit more chill now? Pretty much everybody. Very good. Excellent. Over to the next thing. So it is a debate, but it's not to win the debate. This is about really exploring where these different angles are coming from. So over to the next segment. Oh, most values-driven leadership is just branding until it costs you money. Here we go. Most values-driven leadership is just branding until it costs you money. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are first. Voting in 3, 2, 1. Cast your vote. Agree or disagree? Oh my God, it's pretty 50-50, do you think, guys? No, more disagree. Oh, I don't know either. I feel like it's 50-50. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Hands down and over to the panelists. Yeah. Nothing will get done. No, we just know. Yeah, exactly.
Who got the money?
Okay, here we go. And 3, 2, 1, vote. Oh, Selena as well. Okay, here we go. You can go last. I think Marcin, you can go first. Yes, you can go first this time. Yeah.
Because I wasn't the consensus now. I'm bigger consensus. I'm actually 50-50 on this. I see this from a perspective of purely running an organization, which requires money to operate. and we're a mission-driven organization. We operate on OKRs, which are often mission-driven. But the fact is, unless we generate revenue, we wouldn't be able to be here. So I would not say that most values-driven leadership is just branding, because it isn't. It is a hybrid of both money-driven, revenue-driven, and values-driven. Because if we were only values-driven, all we would have been doing here, or rather, if we were only money-driven, revenue-driven, we would just rent out the space to external clients for external events. We wouldn't do what we're doing right now. So this question is, I would say, 50-50 to me. I know it's impossible, but in the end, you need to make money. So.
Well, I think Selena can go last because she disagreed. Yeah, but
No, I would partially agree with you because if we cannot run the world without money. We like it or not, the money are bad. We are working for ideas. Nice. I would also love to work only for ideas. But I have my family. I have my house. I have to pay for the electricity. The company have to pay the salary for the staff member. So the money is important. And I think sometimes we overestimate that the money are dirty money. I think it's very important to make the money as a tool for exchange the good. That was how they started. The people were exchanging the good, the cow for some machine or whatever. But now we have the money as a tool for exchanging our values in a way. So I would go deeper with your statement that the base, and I think majority of the people, if not all, like the values. That value is something that the value we believe that is good, that is better word. I know that it sounds very ideal, but I like this word for idea. I have a lot of friends who are very enthusiastic for what they are doing for the other people, for the world, for in a science to do some discovery, to prove some, even the medical treatment, and to get an experimental evidence that this treatment is really, value for the.
It sounds like you disagree with the statement, not agree with the statement, actually.
No, but I like to say that it's nice to talk about the value. We all like it. It's also nice. We are so elegant. We just like the value. But I would also, make the money as a very important issue in the world. So not to say the money are dirty, the bad, and I am not working for money. I think it's a bad perception. So I would say that the money make the value to give us kind of the freedom, the comfort to go with our value.
It's very philosophical, and I like it. But anyway, sorry.
Okay. I said there is a lot of branding here, and the reason for that is I tend to work with different organizations who want to work on their values, and some of them really want to work on the values, but quite a lot of them believe that they want to work on their values. So we start a project and we start working on it, and quite soon we start treating this subject in pretty shallow way, I would say. So, as long as we really want to touch on our values, and I agree, it's not only about values, it's also about values and money and trying to combine, and it's not so 0-1 and stuff. But I would say that unfortunately, in many organizations, I can see that we believe it's kind of fancy and nice to have values and discuss about values, but still many executive teams sit down and they say, okay, let's name our 5 values, and then I say it doesn't work this way. You need to ask these people. So I would say that of course it's changing for the better. There are many more organizations who want to work on that in a really deep way, but unfortunately, from my experience, still I see a lot of organizations who treat these values as kind of branding and part of identity rather than really something that pushes them forward.
It's kind of the value game.
Thank you. So my first instinct was to answer like you did, but then I remembered I should use my professional filter. And I represent the NGO sector where there are just values and no money usually. So it is absolutely true that the organizations I used to work for and worked with and know it's pure value-driven leadership, and there is no branding because that's the purpose of the existence of these organizations. So it's easy to have this value-driven leadership. But I also have to maybe break a little bit what you said, because I do have a lot of experience working with for-profit organizations and companies that are really value-driven and are really working for the cause and supporting the organizations I worked with and the causes that we believed in. I used to have this cynical approach to like majority of companies like you described. It's branding, it's greenwashing, child washing, whatever washing. But I have to change a little bit my perspective because I know that there are companies who are really purposeful in what they do, and there are leaders who really walk the talk. And this was specifically visible in the 2022 when the Ukrainian crisis, humanitarian crisis started in Poland, the refugee crisis. Unfortunately, it's declining with time. I hope we might be able to go back to these times where companies were really looking not at their brand, but at the needs, the values, the needs of the people, and this was what mattered at that time. So it's possible, and I just hope that we can get back to this once more. And maybe this could be a normality, not just a crisis-driven situation.
Just to add, I also agree with you that there are more and more organizations, but the statement here was like the most value-driven, and I just don't believe it's majority yet. I hope it will be one day, but right now I wouldn't say that it's most.
This is why I wanted to agree with you, but I don't have the expertise and the knowledge. I have the expertise and knowledge of my professional perspective, where I see most of the leadership like this. That's why I said.
I love that perspective because you have the corporate sector and an entire sector in humanitarian and development aid that we don't typically see in a corporate, in fact, let's be honest, we don't see in the corporate setting. And this is why it's so important to kind of break these silos, because that truth is your truth. And this is what I have seen in the humanitarian sector, people who and I remember Poles who just got stuff together and went to the border. Like it's clearly there. But something has overridden. But sorry, Jerzy, you had something.
Yeah, just a quick add-on. Most is the key word here because you pick the values that are appropriate, and value leadership can be also picky in a way where you pick the value that is appropriate for your company, and it can be value-driven. To me, for example, the most important value, if there is one, is integrity, because integrity binds all the other values that you have. Because that's walking the talk, basically, you know? So, depends on the values. It's also a question which is debatable too. Statement.
Just one comment, we know we are not naive that many companies are putting the value as a value, but they are not working. So this is a state of the life, it's part of the life. But maybe I am naive, but I strongly believe that when we are talking more about the value and we are expecting more from the company, even that there's a social pressure on that, they will slowly change because we press them. And I also think that is a good way that they will start to think, okay, if we like to sell more of our goods, it's maybe good to be in the good club of the company who are doing the value. I know that it's not 100%, that they also make some game on that, but the pressure, when the people are talking about that, maybe some big leader from the big company will feel a little bit uncomfortable and would say, yes, we are also doing the value.
There's an interesting story where US analysts went to Japan, and in the US they don't pay tax. They don't want to pay tax. Tax is bad. You're an idiot if you're paying tax in corporate America. but they went to Japan and there was a complete culture shock because these big CEOs were like, who's paying the most tax? Bearing in mind that a lot of these companies are some of the oldest companies in the world, and they know that paying tax is a privilege and it supports the company in a sustainable way to ensure the environment around the company is stable and can proliferate that kind of company. So I have to agree that I think there is some level of personal leadership that can be reflected into this. So I just have to move us on a little. Oh, actually, sorry, quick vote. Agree or disagree? 3, 2, 1. And it's about mostly agree. Ooh, mostly agree. Yeah. Keep your hand up if you changed your mind. 2 people. Okay, 3, 2, 2. Okay, very good. We have time for one more question. I mean, one question before the next statement. You guys, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe I turn it into a question. I have 2 points, but one point is, how much is this about company value versus the individual leadership value? I think we should not disconnect those 2 things, right? The company value is a sum of whatever ways of working the company has and decided about something. But if you have leaders who personally don't have kind of compatible values, then things go wrong anyway.
I think that this statement enough. It could be like a whole topic, a whole discussion. But I think we did pretty well for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, over to our last statement. Admitting you don't know is only safe once you're senior enough. For everyone below, it's still a risk. So, admitting you don't know is only safe once you're senior enough. For everyone below, it's a complete risk. There's some very opinionated people. All right, 3, 2, 1, vote! Wow, mostly disagree, you think? Mostly disagree, a few agree. Okay, very good. And, okay, you read that for a second. To the panelists, then 3, 2, 1. Wow, they all disagree. Okay, all right. Eva, please start first.
Okay. I think that the value, the admitting the things, it's a little bit linked with our age status or experience status. Let's put it more like that. But it's not the definite. If you are senior, you could be completely wrong with your opinion and confidence. And if you are young person, just completing the school or entering the job market or just developing yourself, could make a very good and admitting the things. So I would just say, of course, being the more adult and adult make you experience, but doesn't assure that you will be more wise in the particular case of the life.
So to me, admitting that you don't know something actually showcases probably one of the most important virtues that a human being can have, which is courage. So it actually shows that you not only not know, but you have the bravery, the courage to show that you don't know. Usually those people are actually the best people in your company.
Yeah, I agree. And I was once taught that there are these different levels of knowing is what I know, what I don't know, and what I don't know that I don't know. And the last part is the biggest. So in my experience, as you said, the best team members that I had were the ones who were brave enough to tell me that they don't know how to do something and they were willing to learn. And for myself as well. So and by doing that, by being courageous to explore, you open yourself up to new perspectives, new possibilities, and you broaden the scope of potential decision making. So I think it's not only courageous, but also worth for the company or institutions to invest in exploring these unknowns.
Yeah, but the truth is, it's also risky, right? I mean, I was recently a part of the panel similar to this one, and there was a question: what can we do to build self-confidence in young people? And my point was, actually, we need to build a space where this self-confidence is not that much needed. I mean, like, are we all that self-confident? Come on, like, We don't need more self-confident. Like you were mentioning this leader that you didn't mention, but we all know, and actually he's kind of too over, confident. We don't need that much confidence. We need space that allows us not to be confident, right? But this is quite tricky because right now, from our perspective, we can sit here, we are like, quite accomplished in a way, and we can say, oh no, it's good to be courageous and blah, blah, blah. But when you're like a young person and you have a leader who doesn't allow you to make any mistakes, it's actually very easy to say, oh, it's important that you're courageous. Yes, but it also may be risky, It really depends on the organization. So I think that it's really our work to build organizations where that's not a risk. But unfortunately, in quite many, it is a risk still.
So you did.
If I could, just because it was a bit of, ad vocem to Celine, I will put a little spoon of acid to our discussion, unless the senior people are not misusing this for being out of the work. I have such example that the very senior people, very nice, asking me too much, and then in the end of the day, I don't want to use the person because he always put the doubt that you don't know how to do this, he wanted to explore more, and the discussion start to be 1 or 2 hours. And this is clear example when the person misuse and uses, I don't know, I'm so, Madam, could you just tell me, I will go your way. This is also happening.
I love that you brought that up because this is so true.
Not this example, but I want to actually what Martin said about space. Space is culture. So if you want people to be brave, to actually say, I don't know, you need to create a culture of a company or an institution or organization where that is allowed. And that's actually the job of the leadership to do that. Also, when it comes to over-courageous people, 1 to 2% of the society are unfortunately sociopaths and psychopaths. And they are very courageous because they have no empathy and no societal breaks.
Did you change your?
No, I believe that it shouldn't be a risk. It is a risk. Yeah, I said it's not a risk. Yeah, whatever.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Right, ladies and gentlemen, you have something you want to add? Yeah.
Vladislav Sobolev. Thank you for the last comment. I really like the idea of culture. I really believe that, people say, oh, you're in a cult, but cult is the root word for culture to a certain extent, right? So anything that you have strong beliefs in, you have some type of culture identity. And I agree with you, we have to foster culture that would encourage people to speak, honestly and the truth. But at the same time, is that really then courageous? Because courage usually implies that you're overcoming obstacles and things that would be against your nature. So it's like if you can say catch-22, or kind of just like some sort of idea. I do believe in individual empowerment to a certain extent to seek the truth above all. But it's a good idea. Like, what's the balance between creating culture that encourages for you to be courageous and then actually taking away opportunity for you to be courageous because now it's more conducive to that behavior.
If I may,
please,
add to this. I agree. This is a very good insight. But also remember that you still have to make a choice to actually say it. There are people who will be working in organizations and companies where such a culture is going to be applicable, and yet they will still not voice their opinion. They will still not say that they don't know. It is always a choice in the end. Sure, it's easier to be in a company where values are being upheld and values of vulnerability, for example, or sharing your lack of knowledge. That's going to be easier in a company like that than one where, for example, the Big Four. Martin can probably speak about that because he did participate in that culture for a moment. But yeah, good point. Good point.
That was a slight moment, yeah.
like 3 years.
Yeah. No, I wanted to get back to what you said previously about the company culture and leaders' culture. It's very difficult to create a culture for people when you can be wrong, when you don't allow yourself as a leader to be wrong, because you need to show that it's okay to be wrong, and you need to show that you are not sure. and you need to apologize if you're wrong, and you need to kind of be vulnerable. And many leaders still try to, lead in a way that they are very strong and they know everything and stuff, right? So it's kind of, I work quite a lot one-on-one with CEOs, and it's like very difficult to change this culture if they don't want to change their own, what they have inside, right? That this change really starts from the leader himself or herself, and it's very difficult to change the culture of the organization if the leader stays on the old position.
If I can add to this, this is a very good point, because trust is always given from the top. Trust is the thread that binds the culture of the organization to allow for courage to actually take place, and that always comes from the top.
Thank you. We have another thing.
Yeah. I wanted to break this without thinking about it senior or junior, because I think, as was mentioned here by you and you as well, with culture, but also attitude, as I understood you were saying. At the end of the day, it's a question of attitude, right? That you can, be confident in saying that you don't know, but is it really what matters, that we can just say that we don't know? I believe like the thing that at the end of the day is interesting is how you go about what you don't know. And as you I know, became aware that you were in McKinsey, right? So you're ex-McKinsey. You're served to as an interview in the interview process with challenges to which you don't know, right? The funny thing is, like, later on once you start working, you're supposed to know everything. So the point is, okay, you don't know, but how are you going to go about this in a way that you could contribute something, right? So the attitude here is like, okay, this is my path forward under my limitations regarding this question that I'm going to treat as a challenge. So whether I'm junior or senior, I'm like humble enough in front of the challenge or the question that I don't know so much about or nothing about, and here's my proposal based on my reasoning, right? And that's something that can be encouraged more or less by companies or institutions, but at the end of the day, it's like an attitude to be encouraged, ideally.
I don't know. No. Can I chime into this?
Yeah.
A little bit more. So firstly, I think the thread that you guys are talking about transcends even culture, because originally I was thinking it's okay to say in Europe that firstly, this is how you expect your modern leaders to be able to be vulnerable enough to say that they're wrong and then do something about it. We always say it's not about when the bad thing happens, about what you do about it that matters. This seems to be a constant thread that goes through. But when we look at a lot, Asian culture, the tolerance is very, very different. However, I also think it's changing. The internet, globalization, the Stoic philosophy, Confucian philosophy is coming right back again. Actually being able to admit that you're wrong is starting to be a great thing, that you can be humble. But I don't want to lose the thread that you mentioned, Professor Eva, about the reality that because there are boundaries, of course, to this, as long as people aren't taking that as an excuse, because management is watching. What did you admit that you didn't know and couldn't do? And strategically, was that really important for us and for your role? So that I just think was an interesting piece that came up. Yeah.
Yes, it's happening in the real life. That the people are misusing this, being unsure and showing their doubts, which is nice. I am also very positive. I teach my students to ask the questions, to doubt the literature, to doubt what is in the publication. But I have quite some cases that the adult people, I would say, not dividing senior and junior, working on the job market.
Hold on, I think you have to separate it, because there are generational, I think, cultural separations, and I'm picking up, this is what I'm observing.
Yeah, they're different, but in between the group, they could be the Gaussian distribution. The people who are very brave, very admitting, and the people who are not. And this so-called Gaussian curve, it's happening in all the age group.
Right.
I'll just chip one more thing into this. You know what the positive result of someone saying "I don't know" is? That this person is potentially not going to make a mistake doing something.
I like that. That's
Yes, and this is what happened to me a lot, especially in countries and cultures where admitting that you don't know is not something so that's done as easy as in Poland. And I had cases where I had projects almost fail because for weeks someone was telling me that everything is all right and I couldn't verify it because of language, for example, barrier. And I just loved staff that were able to tell me, I don't know how to do this task, can you help me? And then after 2 days, they were on track, right? So this for me is crucial, and I agree with all of that was said, that it's up to leadership or management or whatever to set this kind of culture. But yes, and that's why I said it's worth for the company to invest in such a culture because you can avoid mistakes that can be very costly or, in my case, also have very tragical consequences. So.
Yeah, but again, the reason why it's difficult is not because we intellectually don't understand that it would be good to have such culture. Quite often for us as leaders, and I'm talking generally, it's difficult to introduce such culture because, as Jerzy said, we have to start this culture from ourselves, and we need to show up as someone who doesn't necessarily understand. And if we build all our value for the last 20 or 30 years on the fact that we always understand, it's really tricky. So this is why quite often working one-on-one with C-level people has kind of something to do with psychotherapy, right? Because you just make sure that these people are okay with admitting stuff, because only then the culture can change.
I think one of the reasons why we're living through a crisis is what you just said, or I would say an extension of that, because it's a psychological thing. For the last 40, 50 years, and in Poland, I would say 30, 20 more so, we've been going through a cycle, or rather, a period of breaking the psychological cycle of mistakes that our parents, grandparents have made due to wars, economic situations, political situations. We're the first, literally the first generation, which is breaking certain cycles. And that is also, my father, I've never heard my father say, I don't know. I haven't never heard my grandfather say, I don't know. I've openly said, I don't know to my team many times. Because I learned through psychotherapy too, 5 years, worked, hopefully.
Only 5 years.
Well, I was very active. I learned that it's okay to say I don't know. And you know what happens then? It really damn works, and your team really likes you for it. Seriously. Some of them are maybe here.
I think that's an absolutely fantastic place to close off. We have more statements, but I'm so sorry. You're going to have to just come back next time. What I will ask you to do firstly, before we do the survey, is to please give our panelists a big round of applause. As you can imagine, they're all very busy. There's so much going on. And I want to thank you for coming out to do this, because it is so important that we have these kind of discussions in our society and communities, because without this, man, we're stuck in silos, right? And there's so much less moderation happening on social media. So it's really not happening where the proliferation of conversation can really happen. And we don't even know if, to your point, if we're being manipulated. But here, you're seeing them. You're hearing their real stories. And thank you for taking time out to do this, because you're doing this for you. All right, so again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I will, we got photos.
Also, thank you for listening for such a long time. Thank you for being such a great audience. Congrats to you.
I will ask, because